Hello there everyone, and welcome to another edition of Lydia's Crafty Corner with me, Lydia, in my little crafty corner. So today we're going to be doing a little bit of watercolor tracing. So this is going to mean that the image that you create at the end is going to look like that you have done it by yourself, that you've watercolored a beautiful scene, but you have had stamps as your guide. So to start with, I am going to be using the Geo Frames dies, and I'm just going to be using this hexagonal one here, and I'm going to be using this as a little bit of a mask. So I'm using some masking paper just to cut around a little bit before I can run this through my little mini blossom machine. So I'm just going to run this through, and then I have a mask for my sentiment later. You don't have to do this bit if you don't want to. I just wanted to have a nice clean bit to pop my sentiment into afterwards. So I'm going to pop that into place on a piece of watercolor cardstock, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and then I'm going to use my stamp set. So I'm going to be using the Garden Silhouette set. I've just popped one of the leaf images onto my block, and I'm using the Morning Mist ink to stamp it, but I'm stamping it off first so I give myself a really light shadow on my cardstock so I can use this as my guide. I'm then going to be using the Spring Garden watercolor markers, and I'm going to use 2 of the inks from there. I'm using the Limeade and also the Emerald, and I've just added some of the ink by squeezing the barrel of the pen onto my little watercolor palette so I can use this just to pick up the ink. So I'm kind of using them like liquid watercolors rather than using them out of the pen. I'm going to dip my watercolor brush into them and then use them this way. So all I'm going to do then is I'm just going to trace the image that I've stamped with my 2nd generation ink, and then it's going to look like I have stamped it and watercolored it myself even. So I'm just going to keep going, and I'm going to mix the 2 colors together. I'm going to use a bit of one and then a bit of the other, and then dab the other bit in, just to give me lots of variation on these leaves. I think the more that you vary the leaves, the more natural it looks. So you're going to have lots of different shades and beautiful tones with these 2 greens. So again, I have used the Limeade and also the Emerald from the Spring Garden watercolor set. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to keep repeating this. So I'm inking up my stamp with the Morning Frost ink, stamping it off once, and then stamping it into place around my sentiment block. The reason why I'm using the 2nd generation stamp image is because it's really light, and I'm not going to be able to see this later on. You could use a darker ink if you wanted to, if you were then going to use some really dark inks over the top of it, and then it wouldn't be seen. But I do find that the 2nd generation ink of the Morning Frost works really well. You don't have to use a grey, you could use a green if you wanted to as well. I just find that the grey works for everything, so I didn't have to keep switching out inks when I changed my colours. Once I've finished the leaves, I'm then going to move on to the little lavender pieces, and I'm using some Sea Breeze and some of that Midnight Violet. And as you can see, I've done exactly the same technique of inking my stamp up with the Morning Frost ink, stamping it off once, and then stamping it into place where I want it to be. So I've got that really light shadow effect. And again, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to trace the image that I've just stamped down. So I'm mixing these 2 colours together while I'm doing it. I'm using a bit of the blue, a bit of the purple, and that's going to give you a really natural effect for a piece of lavender. It doesn't have to be lavender if you didn't want it to be. You could definitely use different colours, different watercolours that you do have, but I do find that this looks really pretty, and I love how it turns out in the end as well. So I'm going to keep going with these until I have as many as I want in place, and then I'm going to move on to the next one. I'm just going to use one of the open flowers from the Garden Silhouette set, and I am going to use the orange, which is the Autumn Blaze, and also the Rubelite from the watercolor markers. Again, I've popped my ink onto my little palette so I can use it as a wet watercolor, so like a liquid watercolor. So again, I've used the 2nd generation ink from that Morning Frost. You could use a different color if you wanted to, but like I said, it's easier for me just to use a gray for all of my images rather than swap and change out ink colors. But you can do that if you wish. So I'm just going to keep going with these until I have enough images around my block as I want. You can stamp as many as you want. You could create a really full image and create lots of different flowers on there if you wanted to, but I found that just 3 different flowers, 2 different flowers and a leaf worked well for me. Once I'm happy with the amount of images, I've removed my masking piece, and I'm going to stamp in one of the Geo frames that coordinated with the frame that I used before for my die. So I'm going to ink this up using some of the permanent black ink, and I'm going to stamp this really quite hard. Reason being is I am stamping it onto watercolor paper, and I want to get in all those little divots and little bits in the watercolor paper because it's not as flat as a normal paper would be. I'm then going to pop in the sentiment. Again, this is from the Geo Frames. I've popped it into place, and again I'm going to ink that up using the permanent black ink, and it is lovely, and I just love how this looks in the end. So once I did that, I did trim it down a little bit. I added a little bit of foam tape to the back, and then I've added it onto a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 card base. And this is the card complete. I really do love how this turned out. I love how vibrant those colours are as well from the Spring Garden watercolour marker set, and it's just so pretty and so happy. So I really do hope that you've enjoyed the video and that you like the technique and that you do give it a go. I would really love to see what you come up with. So again, thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you don't want to miss out on any videos that we do upload to the channel, it would be great if you do subscribe. And if you're up for watching any more videos, there's a couple more here for you to do so. Again, thank you so much for watching, everyone, and I'll see you again really soon. Bye bye.